The Philippines broke my heart a little. Malaysia put it back together in a way I never saw coming. I want to be careful how I say that, because this isn't a comparison video. It's not about which country is better. It's about what happens when a place shows you something true about yourself, and then another place shows you something truer. I landed in Manila first, and Manila hits you immediately. Not gently, not with a welcome. It hits you with noise, heat, traffic that has its own logic, and a kind of raw, unfiltered human energy that no amount of travel content can prepare you for. The city is overwhelming, and I mean that in the most honest way possible. It overwhelms your senses, your assumptions, and your comfort zone all at once. But here's what nobody tells you. Underneath all that chaos is some of the warmest human generosity I have ever encountered anywhere on earth. Strangers give you directions and then walk you there themselves. Jeepney drivers crack jokes through the window. A woman at a carinderia, a tiny roadside eatery, noticed I looked lost and brought me food I hadn't ordered just because she thought I needed it. The Philippines doesn't just welcome you, it absorbs you. I spent weeks moving through the islands. Palawan, Cebu, the Visayas. Each place felt like a different country wearing the same flag. The nature is genuinely staggering, the kind of landscapes that make you feel like the world was showing off when it made them. But I kept noticing something beneath the beauty, a tension, a heaviness that the warmth of the people only partially covered, infrastructure that struggled under the weight of a growing population, opportunities that felt just out of reach for so many people who were working harder than anyone I'd ever met. The Philippines has soul, enormous, generous, almost reckless soul. But the system surrounding that soul was exhausted. And this is where things get interesting, because I didn't fully understand what I was seeing until I left. I flew into Kuala Lumpur on a Tuesday afternoon. The airport was calm. The train into the city was clean, air-conditioned, and on time. I checked into a guest house in Chowkit, not a tourist neighborhood, a real one, and walked out onto the street looking for food. What I found stopped me. Within 2 blocks, I ate roti canai from a mamak store run by a Tamil Malaysian family, past a Chinese herbal medicine shop that looked like it had been there since the 1940s, heard bahasa Malaysia, Mandarin, Tamil, and English all within the same minute, and watched a Malay family, a Chinese couple, and an Indian man all eating at the same outdoor table like it was the most normal thing in the world. Because it was. At first, it didn't seem obvious why this felt so significant. Then I realized I had never seen that before. Not like that. Not that casually. Here's what the travel brochures get wrong about Malaysia. They sell you the Petronas Towers, the beaches, Perhentian, Langkawi, Cameron Highlands. All real, all worth it. But none of that is a thing that will actually change you. The thing that changes you is the ordinary. Malaysia is built imperfectly, incompletely, still messily, a daily life where difference is not a spectacle. Where a Hindu temple sits between a mosque and a Buddhist shrine on the same street, and nobody photograph it as a symbol because it's just Tuesday. Where the national food culture is so thoroughly blended that nobody can fully agree on who invented what dish, and somehow that argument is always friendly. I kept thinking about the Philippines while I was experiencing this. Not to compare, but because the contrast was teaching me something. The Philippines gave me warmth from people. Malaysia gave me warmth from a system. And I hadn't realized until that moment how rarely you get both. That's when everything changed. I was sitting in a kopitiam in Penang, one of those old coffee shops with wooden chairs and ceiling fans and uncles who've been drinking their morning coffee at the same table for 30 years. I had a bowl of Assam laksa in front of me. Outside, the street was filling up with the slow Tuesday energy of a city that wasn't performing for anyone. And I thought, this is what the Philippines is trying to build. Not the infrastructure specifically, not the economic development, though that matters, but this sense that the society around you is functional enough that the people inside it don't have to work so hard just to survive the day. That there's enough breathing room for culture to accumulate, for coffee shops to last 30 years, for neighborhoods to have memory. The Philippines has the soul, Malaysia has the structure, and watching both of them from the inside, I started to understand something uncomfortable. Development isn't just about money. It's about what gets built around people so they don't have to carry everything alone. We talk about developing countries like the gap is purely economic. Like if you just solve the GDP problem, everything else follows. But that's not what I saw. What I saw was that some of the most alive, most generous, most deeply human people on earth are living inside systems that make their lives unnecessarily hard. And that when you take those same qualities, that generosity, that resilience, that capacity for joy, and you place them inside a system that functions, something extraordinary becomes possible. Malaysia isn't paradise. It has its own fractures, its own inequalities, its own unresolved tensions. I'm not selling you a postcard, but it showed me what a society looks like when it's had just enough stability, for just long enough that the culture can breathe. The Philippines showed me the soul. Malaysia showed me what the soul looks like when it has room to move. I didn't expect to leave Southeast Asia thinking about systems. I went looking for beaches and food and stories. But somewhere between Manila and Kuala Lumpur, between a carinderia where a stranger fed me and a kopitiam where nobody noticed me at all, in the best possible way, I stopped being a tourist and started being a witness. And what I witnessed was this: the difference between a place that survives on the strength of its people and a place that has learned to support them back. That gap is not about which country is better. It's about what every country owes its people. And I'm still thinking about it. I want to know, have you ever traveled somewhere and felt the weight of that gap? Not just seen poverty or wealth, but actually felt the difference between a society that carries its people and one that makes them carry everything themselves? Tell me in the comments. Genuinely, these are the conversations worth having. And if this is the kind of travel content you've been looking for, not highlights, not rankings, but the stuff underneath, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. New video coming soon.